POV. You notice something strange. A person sits beside a fire. They aren't cooking. They aren't staying warm. Instead, they place dried leaves into the flames. Smoke rises into the air. Then they lean forward and breathe it in. Thousands of years before cigarettes, thousands of years before tobacco companies, humans were already experimenting with smoke. But why? Who started it? And when did smoking first appear in human history? Fire changed everything. It gave humans warmth, protection, light, and time to observe. Ancient people spent countless nights around campfires, watching smoke drift into the darkness, breathing it accidentally every single day. Eventually, someone noticed certain plants created unusual effects when burned, and curiosity took over. Ancient humans experimented with everything: roots, berries, leaves, flowers, mushrooms. Some were food, some were medicine, and some altered the mind itself. There were no scientists, no laboratories, only trial and error, and sometimes those experiments changed human history forever. Nobody knows who the first smoker was. Their name is lost forever. But archaeologists believe humans were using smoke-producing plants thousands of years ago, long before written history began, long before civilization, long before cities existed. The practice may be older than we can even prove. At first, smoking wasn't a habit. It wasn't entertainment. It was an addiction. For many ancient cultures, it was spiritual. People believed smoke carried messages to the heavens, to ancestors, to gods, to unseen forces beyond human understanding. The smoke became sacred, and sacred things spread quickly. As human groups spread across the world, different cultures discovered different plants. Some burned herbs, some burned tree bark, some used dried leaves. Others inhaled smoke during ceremonies. The practice appeared again and again, in different places, for different reasons. Yet the idea remained the same. Smoke was more than smoke. It meant something. Imagine living in a world filled with mystery. Thunder had no explanation. Disease had no explanation. Death had no explanation. The stars had no explanation. Ancient humans searched desperately for answers. And sometimes, smoke seemed to bring them closer, closer to the spirits, closer to the gods, closer to understanding the unknown. Some ancient shamans became experts in altered states of consciousness. They used plants, fasting, isolation, and sometimes smoke. The goal wasn't pleasure. The goal was knowledge, guidance, healing, or communication with the spiritual world. To many tribes, these experiences felt completely real. Then something important happened. Knowledge began spreading. Parents taught children. Elders taught younger generations. One tribe learned from another over hundreds, then thousands of years. Certain smoking rituals became traditions, and traditions can survive for a very long time, even after people forget why they started. Eventually, some plants became especially important. One of them was tobacco. Long before modern cigarettes existed, people in the Americas were already growing and using tobacco, not for advertisements, not for money, not for massive industries, but for rituals, ceremonies, and cultural traditions. What started as smoke rising from a fire was slowly becoming one of the most influential plants in human history. Tobacco wasn't the only plant humans smoked. Far from it. Across different regions, different tribes discovered different plants. Some used herbs, some used tree bark, some used dried flowers. Others used plants that produced powerful effects on the mind. The discoveries happened independently, again and again and again, thousands of miles apart, without communication, without maps, without written records. Yet humans kept reaching the same conclusion. Certain plants changed how people felt, and that made them important, very important, because in a world filled with mystery, anything that seemed to reveal hidden knowledge was treated with respect, sometimes even fear. The more humans observed nature, the more they experimented, not because they were scientists, because they were survivors. Every plant represented a question. Could it heal? Could it help? Could it harm? Could it kill? There was only one way to find out. Try it. And remember the result. Generation after generation, human knowledge slowly expanded, one discovery at a time, one mistake at a time, one lesson at a time, and some of those lessons became traditions that survived for thousands of years. As time passed, smoking became more than a ritual, more than a ceremony, more than a spiritual practice. It became part of daily life. In some communities, people smoked before important decisions, before hunts, before gatherings, before negotiations. The smoke created a moment of reflection, a moment of focus, a moment of connection. And over generations, these practices became deeply rooted in culture, so deeply rooted that people could no longer imagine life without them. Then something unexpected happened. Human civilizations began growing. Villages became towns. Towns became cities. Trade routes expanded. People traveled farther than ever before. And wherever humans went, their traditions followed, their beliefs followed, their customs followed, their plants followed. The world was becoming connected, and tobacco was becoming part of that connection. A plant once known only to small groups was beginning a journey across continents. But tobacco wasn't spreading because of force, at least not yet. It spread because people shared knowledge. Stories spread, experiences spread, curiosity spread. When travelers encountered unfamiliar customs, they paid attention, they observed, they learned, and sometimes they carried those discoveries home. What started around ancient campfires was slowly reaching new cultures, new people, and new generations. For many people, smoking remained sacred. It was treated with respect, not casually, not carelessly. Certain rituals required preparation, certain ceremonies required meaning. The act itself mattered, the setting mattered, the intention mattered, because many ancient cultures believed tobacco was not ordinary. It was a gift, a bridge, a connection between worlds, and that belief survived for centuries. Yet nobody understood what was truly happening. Nobody understood the lungs. Nobody understood addiction. Nobody understood nicotine. Science did not exist. Modern medicine did not exist. Ancient humans could observe effects, but they couldn't explain them. They only knew what they experienced: the calm, the focus, the visions, the sensations, and in a world filled with mystery, experience often became truth. As centuries passed, more people adopted smoking traditions. Different cultures created different methods, different tools, different rituals, different meanings. But one thing remained surprisingly consistent: the smoke, the belief, the experience. Across mountains, across forests, across deserts, humans kept finding significance in the same rising clouds of smoke, and the tradition continued growing. What began as curiosity was becoming history. The unknown individual who first experimented with smoke could never have imagined the future. They could never have imagined millions of people doing the same thing across different lands, different languages, different civilizations. One simple discovery, made thousands of years earlier, was shaping human behavior on a massive scale, and the story was only beginning. By now, smoking had survived generations. Wars came and went, tribes rose and disappeared, cultures changed, languages changed, but the tradition remained, passing from parent to child, from elder to student, from one generation to the next. What started with a handful of burning leaves beside an ancient fire had become one of humanity's longest-lasting practices, a practice that would eventually influence societies across the entire world. And its greatest impact was still yet to come.